something new that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be a Sunday morning live series. I know a lot of folks like to do their lives in the evening. I'm somewhat of a morning guy. I like to get up early on Sundays. If I have some type of errand to run or anything like that, usually I'll be up early. And then usually the kids are up early as well. So Sunday mornings just work out well for me, and so I figured I'd go live. This lens is a little dirty. Let me clean this off. Hang on. Let me get this lens cleaned here. All right. That might be a little bit better, I think. Okay, yeah, there we go. So Sunday morning live session. I may do this once or twice a month. I figured this is a good way to do like a collection update. A lot of times I get questions about certain parts of my collection. People may want to know, like, how many games I have or what games I have in a certain part of my collection. So this morning, what we're going to be looking at is all of the PlayStation 1 games that I have in my collection. I figured it'd be easier to just kind of go through this live, kind of just talk about all the PlayStation 1 games I have and share them with you guys. Some quick stats. Right now, I only have about 65 games in my PlayStation 1 collection. So, which is a big drop off. I used to have a lot more. I think at one point, hey, what's going on, Mun Prince? Yes. Yep. Trying to go live a little bit more, especially on like the weekends. I try to do it at random parts. Hey, good morning, Sydney. Good morning. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. So this morning we're just taking a look at my PlayStation 1 collection. Gonna show you guys just what I have at this point. Used to have a lot more games than I have now. I've actually scaled it back, but it's the PlayStation 1 collection is slowly growing. So not gonna waste any time. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna just go over the only two long box games in my collection. First is gonna be this copy of Raiden Project. This has two kind of like old school top down shoot 'em up Raiden games on it. Pretty decent. The Raiden shoot 'em ups are okay. Not my favorite shoot 'em up series or franchise, but still decent nonetheless. So you got Raiden there, and then you also have Philosoma, a very interesting looking shoot 'em up as well. Played a little bit of this. Got different viewpoints on this one. This game, in to a degree, kind of reminds me of Einhander, which we'll take a look at in a bit. This is a little foreshadowing for you all. But yeah, so Phil Soma. So these are the only two long box PlayStation 1 games that I have in my collection currently. Yeah, and they're both shoot 'em ups. Now let's get to the main course. So starting off, we have Blood Omen Legacy of Kain for the PlayStation 1. This is a very interesting kind of like top-down action RPG style game. This game feels very much like an old school like PC game that you would play. Not my favorite in my collection, but one that I traded for. So you've got that. Then you've got Spyro Year of the Dragon. I'm not a huge Spyro fan. I don't like play a ton of Spyro games, but this was one that I think I picked up for like $5 during a promo. So you got Spyro. Next, I have this sealed copy of Pandemonium 2 for the PlayStation 1. Never played actually I'm lying. So I had Pandemonium 1 and 2 back in the day. I didn't have them sealed. I did play both. Very interesting. Playing the Pandemonium games, it's kind of like the epitome of what like graphics were like during like the PlayStation 1 heyday for me. Just some classic graphics on that. But I did get this copy sealed during a trade. Look at that. What was that? $47 back in the day for that. So got Pandemonium. Next up, this is a game that you guys have heard me talk about a ton. This is Rapid Reload. So this is actually a PAL PlayStation 1 game. I don't know of any ways that you can play PAL games on like a NTSC PlayStation 1 system without any kind of modifications. I did not want to modify. I don't really like modifying consoles. I'll buy a console that's already modified. But I had to get a PAL PS1 for this. So this is a very interesting game. I mean, if you look at just some of the screenshots there, And one day I'll do a stream where I'm actually playing this game. But this feels like the UK version of like Gunstar Heroes. Very, very cool game. Very interesting game. This is my only PAL game so far, but I do hope to add a few more PAL PlayStation 1 games to my collection. All right, next up we have Wild Number 9. So Wild Number 9, actually a very interesting, this is like a side-scrolling action game, like a platforming game, where he uses like this magnetic ring to kind of like grab enemies and slam them. Pretty interesting one for sure. One that I had, I sold, and then I got it back recently. So Wild Number 9 is a recent addition back to the collection. Then you have C12, Final Resistance. This is like an open world kind of like shooter game, like an open world run and gun shooter style game. Very interesting. Not the best graphics, right? And there are certain games on the PlayStation 1 that conceptually they were a really great idea, but just graphically they're hard to stomach. An example of that would be Spawn on the PlayStation 1. Just not the best game to look at. Let's see. So we have La Shiva Parka. Hi, Y. Y got the person with original PS1 7-inch screen. I live in Texas, Corpus Christi. Hey, shout out to you from all the way from Corpus Christi, man. Thanks for checking in. All right, so then next up, we have another game here. We've got Rascal on the PlayStation 1. Rascal, so this is, again, another example of a great idea, a great concept on the PlayStation 1, but just poorly executed when it comes to the controls, you know? So this is one of those PlayStation 1 games that looks great, great concept, but if you try to play this game, you're gonna get frustrated because the controls suck. Like, they suck. The controls and the camera view just sucks. Like, it's very hard to control, and I think that's the reason why this game is so cheap. I think if they would have done better with the controls on this game, it would have gone a lot farther. This has the potential to be on like an Ape Escape level, but it's just not there. Like, they're just gonna get the control straight. All right, next up, we have a classic for you in this next one. See here, so Metal Gear Solid. So I'm just gonna go straight out the gate. I remember when Metal Gear Solid first came out, and I remember this being like every one of my friends had this game. I did not have this game when it first came out, and I did not want to play it because I was a little ignorant. For some reason, for years and years, I thought this was a first-person shooter. It wasn't until like way down the line I realized, oh, this isn't a first-person shooter. It's like a third-person espionage type of spy game. And I never really gave it a shot until like recently. And really what got me into it was some of the later Metal Gear games like Metal Gear Rising and stuff like that. So I wanted to get this one back in the collection. I do have like the Metal Gear like collection, like compilation discs on like the 360 and PS3 that have like a bunch of Metal Gear games on it. But just having this version of Metal Gear is like really just classic. And I kept that little sticker on there. I always go back and forth as to whether or not I want to keep these stickers on or if I want to take them off. So, but yes, Metal Gear is also in the collection there. Let me just check out a couple comments. He says, I like that every game you put on screen, you have something to say and not that you haven't played it yet. There may be like 1 or 2 games here that I haven't played yet. So I haven't played every single PlayStation 1 game in my collection, but I've played most of them. Let's see. Love the look of the PAL PS1 cases. They look more premium than the North American cases, but from what I heard, PAL cases tend to break easily from Europe. Yeah, so they do. So Mun Prince, to your point, yeah. So the PAL PlayStation 1 cases do kind of have like a premium feel to them. As you can see, there's a crack there. So, and then, but what I like is like on the side, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up there, but you see like it has like a little engraved PlayStation on there. They are pretty cool, and the manual on this one is pretty hefty. See if I can open it up. Yeah, this manual is pretty hefty, man. Like, classic, right? So, but this is, like I said, for this game, this is the UK version. There is a Japanese version of that game that came out called Gunner's Heaven. It's like a fraction of the price. Okay, so next up we have Marvel Superheroes. I don't need to say a lot about this. This is a classic fighting game. I grew up playing this game. I used to be a part of a band. Go ahead, laugh at me now. Yes, I was that kid in band. And when I used to go to band practice, there was a arcade store that wasn't far from where my band practice was, and we would go in there and we would play Marvel superheroes, and this is what kind of got me started when it comes to like the Marvel games and stuff like that. So this is great. You can play this now. It's part of the Capcom collection. So yeah, I mean, you know, pretty classic game. I mean, if you're into fighters, you're gonna like that. Next up, we have Mega Man X4 on the PlayStation. So I remember having Mega Man X4 and 5 um, on the N6 on the PlayStation 1 back in the day. And I never really beat any of them. And I really got them because right before I had got my PlayStation 1, I had a Super Nintendo and I had just beaten like Mega Man X1. Even back in the day, Mega Man X2 and Mega Man X3 were expensive. And by back in the day, I'm talking about like early 2000s, right? So because I was still playing Super Nintendo like into the early 2000s. And those games were still extremely expensive even then. So like, you know, I remember having this one. I actually found this one at a GameStop and got it under the you know, got it under, I think it was the 4 under 20 for 40. So they had this one there, I think for like 14 bucks or something. So got this one for 9.50. Not mad at that at all. Pick that one up. Let me check out some comments here. I love the PS1. Yeah, man, I love it too. Clark Nova said, it's sad modern games don't put as much effort into game manuals anymore. It is true, man, because there are some games that come out like on the PlayStation 4 and stuff that I would love to see a manual for just to get some details about the characters and things like that. But that's a cost that I think just companies aren't willing to pay. I heard most PAL games run slower than NTSC games. I can't really speak to that, Brooklyn gamer, just because I only have one PAL game, and it does slow down once there's like a lot of things happening on the screen. I have seen a slowdown, but I don't know if I could say it's slower because if you've played like Gunstar Heroes before, you know Gunstar Heroes slows down too. So I guess it just depends on the game. Do you have Legends? I sure do. East Coast Retro Gamer says that is true, Brooklyn. Northeast Retro Gamer says, what's up, Y2K? What's up, man? How's it going? Happy Sunday morning to you. Retro games better than modern games. Yeah, just Dave. Yeah, I think so. In certain ways, I'm not just gonna completely just crush, you know, modern games. I do like what they've done with the Switch. I think um, them like some of the modern retro games that are being brought to the Switch are cool. Like if you guys don't know, I'm just gonna kind of rattle off a few Switch games to be on the lookout for. You probably already know about some of these, but there's a new Shinobi game coming out for the Switch. That's a 2D side scroller. There's also the new Ninja Gaiden game coming out for the Switch, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. That's also coming out for the Switch. Then you have Terminator 2D. That's another side scroller that's going to be coming out for the Switch. So you've got a number of really good looking like modern retro games coming out for the Switch. Also, I think one that's coming out a lot sooner is Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. So that looks like basically the Power Rangers version of that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. That's basically like the Power Rangers version of that. So you got a few pretty cool ones coming out. All right, keeping it going here. Next up, we have Parasite Eve, PTK779. What's going on, man? PTK, hold on, before I get into Parasite Eve, let me just see, because a few comments came in. What's up, Y2K? Yep. What's up, Just Dave? What's up, New York? PTK, Brooklyn Gamer, love Gunstar Heroes. I love it too, man. This year's fantastic for Retro 2D. Yeah, it is, man. There's a lot of really good things coming out for Retro 2D. Mom Princess Y2K man asked if you still have plans on making content on your dad channel. I remembered commenting. Yeah, so I do, right? I'll answer that and then I'll get back to the PS1 collection and then I'll come back and check some comments. So with regards to the dad channel, I did have plans for that channel, but I think I'm going to probably move some of that content over to Patreon because a lot of it is going to deal with like everything that I do from a video perspective, like audio videography perspective. And a lot of that content is going to be a lot more edited, like at a much higher level. It's really, a lot of that content will probably have like a more cinematic look. So I'm really trying to decide what I'm going to do with the dad channel versus like the content that I'm going to be bringing to Patreon. I felt like Patreon was just a more appropriate place for some of the topics that I'm going to be discussing. Just because I don't want to have to deal with like YouTube censorship and things like that, and I want it to be more of an open and free space. So I'm conceptualizing that, and a part of my decision making on that is going to be based on like what I do with this room, turning it into a creative studio and things like that. So more to come, but appreciate the interest in that for sure. All right, let's get through some more games because I have a whole stack here to get through. All right, so Parasite Eve on the PS1. So this one I recently got from GameStop actually. Um, Interesting. This is like I guess a survival horror style game. I haven't played this one up a ton. I do know that it's based in New York, so it's pretty interesting to see like the 3D rendition of New York City, how it looked on the PlayStation back then. This is one that I got to dive into some more. Vagrant Story. So Vagrant Story was like an RPG that I got on the PlayStation 1 way back. I wasn't a fan of the graphics with Vagrant Story. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I know a lot of people like they have differing opinions on this one. Graphically wasn't a huge fan, but the gameplay and the music is pretty tight, man. This is a pretty tight game. I need to play more Vagrant Story. I'm gonna be honest with you. I need to play more of this game to really dive into it, but very, very cool game. Um, Next, we got another RPG. Many of you know this one, Xenogears. I remember either junior high or high school. I had a friend that would not shut up about this game. Like he would talk about this game all the time. And it wasn't until I started to play it that I realized why. It's a very different style RPG, especially when you get into like the combat aspects of the game. Just the whole concept of these like larger, like kaiju style kind of, not monsters, but just, I guess, I think, I used to think of them as like Zords from like Power Rangers, when you get into like the battle modes of the game, but definitely an interesting story. Another one that I have to come back to. I started playing Xenogears, stopped, and then kind of need to get back to it. RPGs are just tough. They're tough to kind of stick with. Okay, so here's one that I really haven't played at all. This is probably my most recent RPG pickup, but that's Tales of Destiny 2 on the PlayStation 1. This is one that I had heard about a lot, and I saw an opportunity to pick it up, and so I snagged it. So this is one I need to get into for sure and spend some more time playing. I've been tempted to get rid of these stickers, but then I've gotten mixed reviews. A lot of you say, Y2K, don't take the sticker off. Some say to take the sticker off, but I mean, look how classic that is, man. EB Games. I mean, I'm really looking for a game that has like a Funko Land sticker on it. For those of you who remember Funko Land, if you've ever bought a game from Funko Land back in the day, you could drop a comment down below. But Funko Land used to be the spot for sure. All right, keeping it going. All right, here's a game that many have asked if I have, and here goes your answer. Einhander. So I'm a fan of shoot 'em ups. I feel like someone on the channel had asked me a few times if I had Einhander. I do have a copy of Einhander on the PlayStation 1. Now, Einhander, as great of a shoot 'em up as it is not in my top. It might be in my top 5 shooters on the PlayStation 1. I don't think it's in my top 3 though. It's an interesting shoot 'em up. I think it's got some great features and characteristics. I love the change in viewpoint, but it's not one that I'm like super gung ho about. I like Einhander, but it's not my fave. Definitely a good one though. Okay, Capcom versus SNK Pro is the next game that we got going on here. So for those of you who don't know, there is going to be a Capcom Fighting Collection Part 2 coming out. So we got the Capcom Fighting Collection with all of like the Street Fighter games, and I think Red Earth and some of those other Capcom games. Then we got the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection last October, I want to say, that had all like the X-Men versus Street Fighter stuff. So they're coming out with another one, and this one is supposed to have like SNK versus Capcom. I think it's gonna have like Project Justice on there as well. So that one is a really good one to get. If I were to get that one, I would primarily be getting it for Project Justice. Project Justice was released on the Dreamcast, but the thing that really bums me out, and if I'm wrong, so you guys can let me know in the chat, but I'm really scratching my head as to why they didn't include rival schools. Like, why would you not put rival schools in that pack. Like, why would you put Project Justice and not Rival Schools? Rival Schools was like the prequel to Project Justice, so just I didn't get that. But hey, I don't make the rules. But yeah, if you're interested in Capcom versus SNK, be on the lookout because they are coming out with a new rendition of that. Next up, we have Final Fantasy Origins. This is another recent pickup. Got this during a 420 for 40 from GameStop. It was complete and in really good condition. I was like, wow, I can't believe it. I was fine. Like, I've had some really good luck with PS1 games and GameStop this year. But this is the first and second Final Fantasy games. Really cool stuff on this one here. I haven't played this one yet. I think I tested it, but I haven't played it. But definitely cool to have and find. Here goes one that I think you guys will like. Star Gladiator for the PlayStation 1. Now, for those of you who are into those fighting games, so there were two versions of Star Gladiator that came out. This is the Capcom Fighter's Edge. So for those of you who remember, Capcom had like a Fighter's Edge series where all of their fighting games came with this like what looks like a little bit of a cutout. And they came with like registration cards, and you could like mail them in, and you had like a point system and stuff like that. So there's two versions of Star Gladiator. This is the Fighter's Edge version, and this version I've never really seen out in the wild before. I don't really see this version of Star Gladiator, but Star Gladiator, I think the sequel to this is Plasma Sword on the Dreamcast. What drew me to this game is obviously Hayato. I know Hayato from the Marvel versus Capcom games. I'm a fan of Hayato. He's not very effective in Marvel versus Capcom 2, but he's still cool. It's cool to see him there. So yeah, Star Gladiator is also in the collection there. We got a couple more RPGs, some Working Designs RPGs. We got Vanguard Bandits. Not a ton to say about Vanguard Bandits. I haven't spent enough time really playing through Vanguard Bandits, but I knew like back in when I was like thinking that I was going to become an RPG head, I knew this was one I wanted to tackle, have it in the collection. Got to play it a little bit more before I can give any commentary on it. Alundra. I've had Alundra in my collection for quite some time. This is an interesting RPG as well. Kind of gives me those Zelda vibes. The thing with Alundra, the physical version, to get it complete, you do have to have all of the discs. You do obviously have to have the manual, but then there is also a map that comes with it. I gotta just love the quality of Working Designs, man. Like, look at the quality of that. That just, is it embossed or debossed? I think it's embossed. The shiny covers on their stuff, just they put a lot of time and effort into what they delivered, even back in the day. Their special editions were top tier. And then Alundra, what a lot of people don't know is that Alundra actually came with this map. It's kind of tough these days to find a copy that does come with the map, but this is the map that actually comes with the game. Pretty sick stuff, man. Yeah, pretty sick stuff. So Alundra is definitely one that I have in the collection there as well. All right, then we have Brave Fencer Musashi. So this is actually really cool. So Brave Fencer Musashi, like there's not a lot of games on the PlayStation 1 that play like Brave Fencer Musashi. Brave Fencer Musashi is like a hack and slasher, like RPG style game with like very interesting levels. The first level starts off as like this kind of like isometric viewpoint, but he's got different attacks in there. And there actually was a sequel on the PlayStation 2. I think the PlayStation 2 has a sequel. I think it's just called Musashi, if I'm not mistaken. But very interesting game. Another one of those like multi-disc games and there's a couple other things that come with this one too. So you get the game, obviously you get the manual that comes with the game. But then with this one, you get a mini walkthrough for Final Fantasy VIII plus the Final Fantasy VIII collector CD. So, you know, Sony had all these different inclusions in a lot of these like large case games, these like double disc deals. So it's tough to find some of these games like complete out in the wild. But yeah, definitely glad to have that one. I'm going to pause real quick for a second, go through some of the comments. Let me go back and see what we've got here on the comments. Let's see. Let me go back. That video was cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Been checking out your collection vids recently. Good stuff. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, for that game room video, man. Yeah, I'm still working on it. Been a collector since 2017. Letting go of my 360 collection was my biggest regret at the time. Made up for it though. Yeah, the 360 is a tricky one. Yeah, anything Gen 7 is tricky. Like I debate whether or not I want to sell all of my Gen 7 stuff because I feel like I still have at least 2 years to get it all back, but you never know. I think keeping physical retro is crucial in these times. It's just been phasing out slowly. Yeah, yeah, man, I agree. Um, I mean, people don't realize it now, but physical, you're gonna want it in a few years. Funko Land was great. Funko Land was great, Nam Omar, for sure. When Prince says, man, these old RPGs are just great, but they're too time consuming to me. That's why, yeah, that's the issue with RPGs, man. You want to sit down and play them, but then, like, you know, you hear the baby start crying and you got to make food and just life starts lifing and you got to pause. And with RPGs, you kind of have to get into that rhythm, especially if it's like a grinder. You kind of want to like stay on it. Releases this month, I think, from Clark Nova. Yeah, I think that's for the Capcom Collection Volume 2. Yeah, that does, I think it releases this month. Einhander has a lot of German words in the game, not only in the title. Yeah, I gotta go back. I mean, I could just tell from the name, Einhander. Einhander. Is that how you would say it? I'm not sure how you would say it, but I'm thinking it would sound something like that. Clark Nova with the comic included. Yeah, I think that's for, I think he's talking about Capcom Volume. Brooklyn Game Collector, Capcom versus SNK Pro. Good game. Can't wait for that collection. Yeah, it is going to be a good one, man. And now Omar says he has the Capcom Fighting Collection pre-ordered. For sure, man. That's like a greatest hits version of Fighter's Edge. Yeah, basically. Um, Brooklyn Game. How is Star Gladiator? Star Gladiator is cool, man. It's like it's not anything like crazy. You know, it's not like, you know, I kind of, to be honest with you, I kind of get Battle Arena Toshinden vibes from it. But if I were to play a game, like a 3D game that included Hayato, I would just say go try out Plasma Sword on the Dreamcast. It might be better. Um, PTK, the shiny covers are fantastic. We didn't get this in Europe. So with working designs, man, they had all that holographic, like embossed lettering on a lot of their stuff. And even when you think about like the Lunar games, like I picked up a copy of Lunar and there's so many versions of Lunar 2 that some of them, or I think one of them didn't even have the embossed lettering, but some of the discs have like completely different cover art on the disc. So very interesting when it comes to that. Whoa, holographic. Love that other games came with a map just like GTA. Yeah, man. Yeah. Musashi Samurai Legend PTK. That's exactly, I think that's the PS2 version of Musashi for sure. All right, keeping it going here now. We've got some more RPGs. Let's go into this one here. So we have Lunar 2. Was just talking about Lunar. So I have Lunar 2 on the Sega CD, but I had this copy of Lunar 2 on the PlayStation 1 first. So I think I might sell my PlayStation versions of Lunar. I do have like the maps and stuff with them, but I don't have the big overall box. So they still don't feel complete. So I may just wind up selling, excuse me, I may just wind up selling my copies of Lunar. We have another cool, interesting, like 3D side scroller, and this is Dragon Valor. Not a lot of people talk about Dragon Valor. I would say this is more of like kind of like a middle of the road type of game. Not super valuable, not super rare, but definitely a good classic just game that you would want to have. Feels like a really interesting arcade hack and slasher that you would want on the PlayStation 1. Played this a few times when I first got it, actually. Very interesting game. Good one to have on the PS1. I would say to grab it. We have a classic, folks. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A PlayStation 1 collection is not complete without Symphony of the Night. This is the godfather of Vanias, I guess you would say. Whenever I think about Metroidvania, Metroidvania is a combination of Castlevania and Super Metroid. And this is a genre-defining game to me. Really love this one. Love the music in this game. Love all of the voice acting in this game. Just really good stuff. Classic, man. You can't beat it. Okay, I think we were just talking about Capcom Fighting Collection. Why didn't they include this game in their Rival Schools? If you know, you know. And by the way, this is also another Fighter's Edge edition. But Rival Schools is a classic, man. I'm telling you, for those of you who spent, if you grew up in the arcade era, you will know, man. People used to like play this game ferociously. This was one that fights almost broke out about this game. But this is a very, very good um, 3D fighting game on the PlayStation 1. One that I recommend you definitely check out. This one is pretty expensive though. It's come down. I want to say like during the height of the pandemic, Rival Schools was probably like 200 bucks. It has come down, but if you can find this, I definitely say give it a shot. I don't know why they didn't include this in the recent compilation that's coming up, but it's one that I would definitely recommend you checking out. All right, we got some RPGs here. We got Threads of Fate, interesting action RPG here. Recommend you checking this one out. I like this one because of the adventure aspect of it. Definitely think this is a cool one. Recommend you checking that one out. I'm gonna move along because we got a lot of games to get through. Suikoden 2. We know that the Suikoden series recently came out, so you don't now you no longer have to spend $200 to play this game. Can you believe that during the pandemic, this game was $400? Like that's crazy. The pandemic was nuts. Like seriously, like the pandemic was nuts when it came to like PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. Like the inflationary prices were like out of this world. But yeah, so we get into, I think this one still goes for like 200 bucks or so. Do not pay that price. Just go and get the game on the Dreamcast and save yourself like 150 bucks. But yeah, interesting RPG. This Contra is often slept on. So see the Contra Adventure. This is a very interesting version of Contra that not a lot of people talk about, but this version of Contra is pretty sick. One that I definitely recommend you checking out if you like run and gun shooters. I think this one is it's a very interesting story. You don't get to choose from any other character. I think you can only play as Ray in this one, but still definitely one I recommend checking out. Okay, keeping it going. Spider-Man 2. I'm a fan of the Spider-Man games. In fact, last summer I like made it my mission to collect all of the Spider-Man games. Um, I got like Spider-Man on the Dreamcast. I got Spider-Man on the N64, on Genesis. Like I just wanted to get all things Marvel. So Spider-Man 2 is definitely interesting. I played a lot of Spider-Man growing up in high school. These are some, like the Spider-Man games, honestly, regardless of what the console is, they're just fun games. Interesting, fun games to play. Even all the way through, like, all the way up to the PS5, man. Like, if you think about Spider-Man, like the open world experience, the web slinging in that game, they seem to always do Spider-Man games right. So, big fan of Spider-Man. Okay, we've got an adventure version of Mortal Kombat, so Sub-Zero, kind of like an action adventure, kind of beat 'em up style game. Very cool on the PlayStation 1. Just an interesting take, man. You saw these kind of like random games on the PlayStation 1. They weren't afraid to try different things. So this is one that I also have in the collection here. Moving it right along, we have my other copy of Lunar. So Lunar, the Silver Star Story. Again, I do have this complete on the Sega CD. I don't think I need this copy. So I really do think I'm gonna wind up selling my Lunar games on the PlayStation 1 and probably get some other games instead. All right, next up, Breath of Fire 3. So I started playing this game the summer of like 2021. This is a very good looking RPG, and I just kind of like the story behind the Breath of Fire games. I'm a fan of them. I really have a lot of intentions to get back to this one and to play it through. This is a grinder though. It is very much a grinder. You kind of have to grind your way through on this one, but I think the story is interesting, and I am a fan of Breath of Fire 3. And since we're talking about Breath of Fire, we might as well go to Breath of Fire 4 in the collection as well. Big fan of the Breath of Fire series. Breath of Fire 4 looks even better. What really drew me to a lot of these PlayStation games was that some of these games, they have that whole hand-drawn art style, and I am a huge fan of that. So big fan of the Breath of Fire games. And we are going to pause for a quick second just to get caught up on some comments here. So let's go back. Let's see if we can catch up here. So we see Gabriel Rick says Dino Crisis. I don't have Dino Crisis, but that's one that I have an intention to try, or at least try and get if I can find it. This one definitely is a rare one, just Dave. Not sure which one that was you were referring to. But yeah, we got a couple rare ones in here. The OST in Symphony is so good. Yeah, so PTK. So yeah, I agree. The music in Symphony of the Night is addictive. Like if you play that game for more than 20 minutes, you're gonna be humming the music like the rest of the day. Seriously. There's actually there's this Nintendo Switch game that I promise is like a carbon copy of Symphony of the Night, and that is Time Spinner. For those of you, if you've never heard of that game, Time Spinner is basically like a clone of Symphony of the Night. It came out through limited run, and the music in Time Spinner is also very, very catchy, but it plays a lot like Symphony of the Night. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. Time Spinner is a good one. Brooklyn Gamer, Y2K, do you think it's better to play PS1 games on CRT or a newer TV, and does it matter? So that's a good question. So my issue with a lot of PlayStation 1 games and even PlayStation 2 games is kind of like the dark spots. Like sometimes those games can look really dingy. So I'll give you for example, C12. If you struggle with like just vision, anything you can do to get a brighter and clearer image, go for it. Unless you're just trying to go for like a really nostalgic feel. So I guess it just kind of depends on you, what your eyes are comfortable with, and what feel you're going for. I typically play my PlayStation 1 games on like a modern TV, though. Um, Good morning, codename QW. Good morning, man. Or ma'am. Uh, Hope you're having a good Sunday morning. Enigma says, I always wanted this game just because of the magazine ads. Not sure which one that was you're referring to, but yeah, we got some good ones in here. SoFan, do you have Project Justice for DC? I do have Project Justice for Dreamcast. Maybe I will do a Dreamcast collection live. Maybe next week I'll go through my Dreamcast games and talk about that. Just Dave says insane. Yeah, I think he's talking about the price for Suikoden 2. Yeah, Brooklyn Game Collector. Yeah, $400 for some of these games was crazy, but that's what it was looking like during the pandemic. These prices were nuts. Like it was crazy. The Enigma pandemic was crazy for all collectible markets. You're probably right because when you think about it, like for collectors, like if you think about what sneakers were going for during the pandemic, sneakers were going crazy during the pandemic. Like I'm talking about like $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. I think the Travis Scotts, like the Travis Scott Jordan 1 High Mochas, those came out like right before the pandemic, and those sneakers were selling for like $2,500 at one point, $3,000. So there was a crazy pandemic tax on like all things collectible. Brooklyn CRT for me, pixelated looked blends more on modern flat screen TV. Yeah, yeah. I mean that those pixelated graphics definitely vary. I'll say this. I will say this. I've seen where some of my Sega CD games look better on like a CRTV than a flat screen. Like an example would be Android Assault, Bari Arm. That game looks to me better on a CRTV because of the brightness of the colors than a flat screen. But that's just me. Definitely wanted this Spider-Man. Also only had the first one. Yeah, that first Spider-Man was really cool, man. Spidey senses and all that. That Sub-Zero game was crazy hard for me. Yeah. Um, PTK779 says CRT is the way to go for PS1 in my opinion. MV Gaming, good morning, man. What's going on? Depp Lewis Show, good morning, man. How's it going? Yeah. Codename QW, very cool. I would say it's the most difficult adventure Mortal Kombat game. Yeah, there's another Mortal Kombat adventure game that I recently got on the PlayStation 2, Shaolin Monks. I really like Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, and I had it, and then I sold it, and then I got it back again because it's dope. You can do like basically a bunch of the Mortal Kombat moves just on like in a beat 'em up mode, so I think that's really sick. Brooklyn Game Collector says, "What do you think of the Contra Shattered, and which you think is the best Contra game?" So if you're talking about Contra Shattered Soldier on the PlayStation 2, so there's a couple Contra games that came out on the PlayStation 2. I think it was Contra Shattered Soldier, and then there's also Neo Contra. Both of those games are pretty good, but I would have to say my all-time favorite Contra game is probably going to be Contra Alien Wars on the Super Nintendo. Um, they basically ported that same game to the Game Boy Advance in Contra Advance. It's basically the same thing as Contra Alien Wars, but that would probably be my favorite Contra game of all time. King Moso, good morning, sir. How's it going? Envy Gaming says, I'm in the process of building my PS2 game library and some PS1 games. Finally found a game store local to me with a ton of stuff. Good for you, man. It's hard to find stores that actually have good stuff. So if you can find one near you, go for it. King Moso, you got me back collecting retro. Thank you so much for your great videos. Please keep up the good work. I run home every day hoping you put up a video. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate that for sure. MV Gaming says, what adapter do you use to convert to HDMI? I got a cheap Walmart one, and man, it's pixelated so bad. So I showed this in a live yesterday. Let me see. Do I have one around here? I think I have one around here. Let me see if I can find it. So I use this brand. It's Hyperkin. So Hyperkin, they do make these different cables where you can convert. So this one is for my Sega Saturn, but they have like ones for a bunch of different consoles. They have them for, PlayStation, Super Nintendo, all that. Hyperkin makes some decent ones. There's also a number of companies, like if you just Google, CRT or converters or HDMI converter cables for like retro consoles, you'll find a ton of brands out there. This is the company that I've gone with, but I'm sure there's a bunch of other companies that you can find. Gant Pill says, can you give a prediction on PS1 superhero Disney cartoon games like Acme? You see them gaining value in the future as they're nostalgic. So I'll say this to that. I know that during the pandemic, one of the fastest, some of the games that increased in price the fastest were like those Warner Brother games. So like the Looney Tunes games, like I'll give you an example, like Sheep Raider. Sheep Raider shot up in price like at the start of the pandemic. That's the one with like Wile E. Coyote and like the Roadrunner. That game shot up a lot. Now I don't know where it's at now. It's probably come back down, but that game went from being like a $17 game to like a $65 game for no reason. I will say this though, those Warner Brother games for the PlayStation 1, so like Looney Tunes, like Tunes in Time, I think is one game. Sheep Raider is the one that stands out to me because I had that in my collection. And I actually should get those games back, to be honest with you. Primarily because they look great. Like those games look amazing. Like they use cel shaded graphics for a lot of those PlayStation 1 games, and the controls are really good for like Sheep Raider and stuff like that. So I would get those games just because they play very well to me. Like regardless of how much they cost, those are good looking games. So to answer your question, I don't know where they stand now in terms of value, but they're good games. So I would say if you like those games, grab them because they're very fun games to play. America is crazy for the Spider-Man games. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Thanks for the adapter recommendation. Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, pandemic collecting was wild, bro. It was just a wild time for sure. It was a wild, wild time. All right, let's get back into some of these games here. So, keeping it going. So we have another classic here. So Castlevania Chronicles. This is a cool Castlevania game. I think when I picked this one up, I was expecting it to be as good as Symphony of the Night, especially with the price tag that it has. I traded for this game. I didn't pay straight up for it, but I know at the time when I got this game, it was going for around like 130, 140, and it went up even further. Again, I thought this game was going to be better than Symphony of the Night, and it's actually not. It's not a bad Castlevania game, but it's decent. It's decent. Next up, we have Mega Man Legends. Yes, somebody asked me if I have Mega Man Legends. Yes, I do have Mega Man Legends. One of the 3 games that I have on my PlayStation 1 wish list is Misadventures of Tronbon, which I think kind of follows this series here. I really want to get Misadventures of Tronbon. Got to work out a deal to trade for it, so we'll see if I can get my hands on it. But yeah, Mega Man Legends, this is classic, man. This is a classic kind of action-adventure Mega Man game, 3D format, run-and-gun shooter. I mean, this is the PlayStation version of Mega Man 64, and I have both. I've played both. They're both awesome. They're both pretty awesome. And speaking of Mega Man Legends, of course, Mega Man Legends 2, just a continuation of the same good stuff. Big fan of the Mega Man games. Again, just that action adventure 3D. I'm an action adventure guy. If you guys can't tell, I do have some RPGs in my collection, but it's really more so about that action and adventure. Speaking of action, Gekido. So another really awesome adventure game. This is a really cool beat 'em up. If you like 3D beat 'em ups, I feel like 3D beat 'em ups were not done the best on the 5th generation. I think about games like Fighting Force. I think about games like obviously Gekido. I think about games like Jackie Chan Stuntmaster, which is actually a better looking and playing beat 'em up. But I don't feel like beat 'em ups were the best on the 5th generation. Now, by the time we got to the 6th generation, I think they started to do a much better job with 3D beat 'em ups. But Gekido, in my opinion, is one of the better 3D beat 'em ups of the fifth generation on the PlayStation 1. So I would definitely check that one out if you're a fan of that genre. Right. So then we have Kagero, Deception 2. I really don't. So, like, I'm not a huge fan of like the Deception series, right? And I know that series spans across multiple platforms. I actually think I have Deception 4 on the PlayStation 4, if I'm not mistaken. I know these are kind of like puzzle based RPGs. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't play a ton of this one, but I know some of the games play like that. This one plays more like an action adventure game, and I think that's why I snagged this one up. I haven't played this one in a long time, but if my memory serves me correctly, it has like a hack and slash style feel to it. I am a fan of Kagero. I traded for this one. Have not played a ton of it, but it is a cool game. So, I mean, if you're into the Deception series, I would say get this one because it's an interesting one that's a part of that series there. All right, we're gonna keep it going here. So next up, we have the classic Silent Hill on the PlayStation 1. I'm actually considering a trade, and I'll share this with everyone on the live. I haven't made a video about this, but since you all are here this morning, I'll share this with you. So I'm actually considering working out a trade for one of my all-time grails. I may have an opportunity to get my hands on a complete in-box copy of Hagane. And if I could get that, that might like seal the deal for me. I don't even know if I'd continue collecting after I got that, because that for me is like one of my grails. But in order to get that copy of Hagane, I may have to trade away some serious heavy hitters out of my collection, and so Silent Hill may be a part of that trade. So for now, Silent Hill 1 is in my collection. You know, I've played this game. It's not like this game doesn't have a ton of memories for me, but I do remember it. I did play some of it. My brother played it. But yeah, interesting game. It is definitely a cult classic, and a lot of people enjoy Silent Hill. Got it in the collection. Interesting story about this, and this is something that you'll never see happen in 2025. I actually got this. So I was scrolling on Mercari one day, and a guy was selling a complete in box PlayStation 2 with like 12 games. And when I looked at the photos, you saw the PlayStation 2, but in the stack of games, he had just had this Silent Hill chilling, and he was selling it for like 120 bucks on Mercari. So I got almost a like new complete in box PS2, Silent Hill, and like 10 other decent PlayStation 1 games for like 120 bucks. I would never find you never find anything like that on Mercari these days. And it was all mailed to me. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to garage sale hunt. Those were some of the pretty awesome deals that you were still able to find online, even back in like 2020, 2021. So it's crazy. All right, next up, Muppet Monster Adventure. This is kind of a rare one. You don't really see a lot of people talk about this one, but this is pretty much like one of those Muppet, just cartoon style adventure games on the PlayStation 1. Interesting game here. Just action, just like an action adventure, like a platformer on the PS1. Not a ton to say about this one. I played it a little bit. If you were a kid at one point in your life, you know what Muppets are. And so that's pretty much what that's about. Um, Here we go. We got Tomba 2. Now, interestingly enough, I don't have the original Tomba. I just have Tomba 2 on the PlayStation 1. I think Limited Run re-released the Tomba games, so you don't have to pay like the crazy PlayStation prices for these games, because you could just get it on the Switch, like everything else you can get on the Switch. Um, Interesting game. I'm not like married to the Tomba series, but it was interesting to get. I happened to get my hands on a copy for the PlayStation 1. Skull Monkeys, man. So when I see a game like Skull Monkeys, first of all, shout out to that lenticular cover art, right? Where the eye's moving. Can you guys see that eye move? Look at that. See how that eye shifts up and down? Very cool game. This is kind of like that claymation side scroller type of game. This is like one of those, like, I don't want to say it's a hidden gem, but it's kind of like one of those really cool games that you just forget about on the PlayStation. I have this one in the collection as well. Like I said, this is kind of like a claymation style side scroller. Interesting game. Definitely one worth checking out if you're into side scrollers. Oh, this is one of my favorite games on the console right here. Strider 2. So this is a must-have for me on the PlayStation 1. If you are into side-scrolling hack and slash games, you need to get Strider 2. Really love this game. It's a very fast-paced game. You it feels like you're playing Sonic because this is like just like a fast speedrunner style game. It follows that like 2.5D graphical style, but like Strider does have like a 2D look to it. It's very interesting. There are a lot of PlayStation games that had like that 2.5D graphical style. And this is a short game, not a very long game, but I really like this one. The interesting thing about this one on the PlayStation is that not only do you get the Strider 2, but you also get the original Strider. So I really do like that. Love the cover art. Look at that art, man. Just classic. Love that art style on that. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Huge fan of the Strider 2 game. This is definitely one of my faves in my collection. Probably top 20. One that you have to play on the PlayStation. All right, man, we're getting through it. We're cutting through it. We're almost done. We've got a few games left. We've got that stack down. We're about 2/3 through. So before I keep going here, let me just kind of get caught up on some comments here. Uh, yeah, so remake. So Enigma says remake of one. New Waz, good morning, man. Good morning. How goes it? Enigma, I need Legends 2. Mun Prince, what are your thoughts and predictions for 6th and 7th gen video game prices for New Year? Honestly, I don't really see much happening with Gen 6 and 7 price wise. I feel like those prices are going to be what they are. I don't really see those prices like shooting up or going up or down like that. The 360 already had its wave. Those prices for certain games shot up and they came back down. They crashed back down, right? So games like Ken's Rage 2, Fist of the North Star, Armored Core, Wolverine, X-Men Wolverine Uncaged, Silent Hill, like a lot of those games, they saw their spike and they've come back down, and it's pretty much a wrap. As far as the PlayStation 3, to me, there's not enough original games on the PlayStation 3 for there to be like any real surge. And I don't know if the like if the generation that was young during the 360 and PS3 era, I don't know if they have the same level of nostalgia for those generations that like folks of my generation have for like, you know, the Super Nintendo or the PlayStation 1 or N64. I think just nostalgia is waning. Like it's waning over time. And you know, with each generation, there's just like less and less nostalgia. I could be wrong. We can look back 30 years from now and you guys could point the finger and say Y2K, you were wrong, but that's just my thoughts. Grant Pill says, thank you for your insight. Last prediction. What do you think of the horror games Obscure 1 and 2? I know they're already pricey and are very unique co-op horror games. You think future Grails? I'm going to be quite honest with you, Gant Pill. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. When it comes to games like Obscure, when it comes to games like the Fatal Frame games, when it comes to games like Manhunt, I'm trying to think of all of those games, right? The only real horror games that I think are going to continue to have real significant value are games like QAnon, Rule of Rose, the Silent Hill games, and maybe like the Shadowheart series. When I think about games like the Resident Evil games, even those struggle to have like any real crazy value. That's if you're looking at them for value, right? Like, I think unless you're like in the Silent Hill series, you know, Rule of Rose, QAnon, I'm sure there are a couple other survival horror games, Grails, that there's one that it's not coming to my mind right now, but there's a few. But if you're not in that group, I think those games are gonna be what they are. They're gonna hover in that 50 to 75 to $100 range. It's gonna take something happening for them to really spike, in my opinion. PTK Gekido has a cool soundtrack from Fatboy Slim and other DJs. Yeah, man, the music in that game is tight. That music in that game is definitely tight. Tight. One Princess A, I just played Mega Man Legends like an hour ago. I'm stuck at the sixth boss, that robot that tackles and jumps. Yeah, you know, some of these games can get real tricky, but the cool thing about like retro games is that once you just like learn the pattern, you're good. Like modern games are different, you know. Boss battles with when it comes to modern games are really tough because the ability for the computer to learn how you fight makes it very difficult. A good example of that is for those of you who've never played it, if you like boss battle games, check out Fury on the Nintendo Switch. So Fury is a boss rush game, right? Fury will drive you crazy. And anyone who's played Fury, if you've played it, leave a comment down below. Once you get to like the third to last boss, it's a guy that kind of looks like Gandhi. This dude learns your fighting habits, and in Fury, it's basically like a hack and slash shoot 'em up style, like melee style game that you have to be on your toes, because for to get past certain bosses, you have to know how to parry, you have to know how to time to counter attacks, you have to know how to dodge like during the shoot 'em up segments, and then there's also like a hack and slash element to it, and you're forced to fight in all these different formats like within each boss battle. And Fury is one of those games that to me just demonstrates how different like fighting bosses in like modern times is so different from like back in the day with retro, because once you learned the pattern with retro games, you were golden. Now it's not the same. You can't like cheese the system. It's going to adapt to what you're doing, and it's going to kick your butt, and Fury definitely kicks butt. I recommend that. If you're into boss rush battle games, check it out. It's Furi on the Switch. I think it's available on the PlayStation 4 too. Um, Brooklyn Game Collector says Mega Man. Yeah, I feel Mega Man 1 and 3 is the best. Which Mega Man do you think is the best? Geez, that's a good question. Which Mega Man is the best? Man, I'm just gonna have to say Mega Man X, man, the original. Like X2 is cool. Like X2 and 3 are cool because of all the different power-ups and how cool the suit looks once you get all the add-ons and the extra life tanks and stuff. Same thing with 7 and 8. But I would say the best for me is Mega Man X, the original, and then I'd have to say a very interesting Mega Man that I really want to get back into is Mega Man, that Mega Man RPG game. I think it's called, what is it called? Mega Man X Command Mission. That's what it's called. So Mega Man X Command Mission is definitely an interesting one. That's one that I would definitely want to get back to, because I think that's an interesting RPG one. Let's see. MV Gaming says I have SH on PS3. Oh, Silent Hill on PS3 for PS3 for 6, but I need the physical copy. Basically, need 1 through 4, and I'll be happy. Yeah, man, 1 through 4 is tough, and then Shattered Memories is tough. I mean, the Shattered Memories alone is like 400 plus, and then 1 through 3 is probably going to run you around 6 or 7. It's tough, man. Those games are really expensive now. Y2K, I'm starting to collect for the GameCube. Do you get the heavy hitters first or start with the lower price games? Honestly, fan, start with what you like, bro. That's what I would say. When collecting anything, start with what you like. If the games that you like happen to be heavy hitters and they're expensive, then that's what you're gonna get. You know, if the games that you like happen to not be expensive and they're more common, get what you like. Start there. I wouldn't concentrate on if it's a heavy hitter or not. I would concentrate on if it's a game that you actually like or not. I've gotten comments on my collection. I've had a lot of people say, oh, you only buy expensive games. That's not the case. It's just a lot of the games that I like happen to be expensive. My favorite genres are shoot 'em ups. Anyone who knows shoot 'em ups are just expensive, especially the good ones. They're just daggone expensive, but there are also some cheap ones too. So to answer your question with the GameCube, I don't have a huge GameCube collection. It's really not that big because there's not really a lot of games that I like on the GameCube. But a lot of the games that I do like aren't expensive at all. So I'll just give you an example. Like the Mega Man Legends games, I like them on the GameCube. Those are some cheap games. The Spider-Man games, cheap games. Beautiful Joe, I think Beautiful Joe looks the best on the GameCube, and it's not super expensive. That's like a $30 game. Beautiful Joe and Beautiful Joe 2, the Ultimate Spider-Man games, Shadow the Hedgehog. Those are like middle of the road games that aren't super expensive. The Sonic Gems collection, I really like that. But in terms of like heavy hitters, I would say like Wario World is a heavy hitter game in my opinion, but that's a really good game. It's like a very interesting 3D beat 'em up game. It's a 3D beat 'em up adventure game with Wario, so I really like that. But then you also have the shooters that can be pretty expensive too, like Chaos Field and Ikaruga. Now, granted, you can get Ikaruga on the Switch, but I mean, if you're looking to build up a GameCube collection, those are just some options. And then finally, like Skies of Arcadia, obviously you could get Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast, but the GameCube version I think plays a little different from the Dreamcast version. So it's really just up to what you like. I wouldn't buy video games based on if it's a heavy hitter or not, start with what you like. You know, if what you like is a heavy hitter, then so be it. But if what you like also happens to be $15, then amazing. Um, PTK Hagane is a very hard game. It is difficult to enjoy, in my opinion. So yes and no. PTK Hagane, I really like Hagane, but I really like that type of gameplay. I like games. I like 2D games that force you to be reactive and instinctual, and that's why I think I like shoot 'em up so much, because there's just something so satisfying from anticipating an attack, dodging it, or maneuvering around it, and taking out the boss. One of the more difficult stages in Hagane, I think, is like the second part of the third stage, where you're basically being chased by a wall of fire and you have to keep jumping from platform to platform. And some of the pieces of the platform will actually fall off. And if you fall, obviously you perish. But in Hagane, he does have a move that allows him to do a somersault mid-air. So it's just a unique blend of knowing when to jump, when to do a mid-air somersault and land. It's like these are the things that are those are the reasons why I love Hagane, to be honest with you. But Hagane is hard. But you have so many weapons at your disposal, so many different attacks that you can choose from. I think that's why I really like it. One Prince says, "Man, I'm so lucky. I got my Silent Hill copy for $40 last year. The game cover, it's the game cover, but the pages are lost. So, in the Rogers video sticker on the disc, yeah, man. Look, listen, it's your copy. It's a copy you play, man. I have certain games in my collection that have got stickers and stuff on it. So, yeah, as long as it works." Sydney Glones said, "I've gotten a good amount of crazy deals like that on Mercari." Yeah, Mercari has some deals, man. I think there's still some deals you can get on Mercari. Gant Pill, Sofan, a very hard time to collect GameCube, as even shovelware games can be around $10. Yeah, GameCube is expensive, man. GameCube is expensive. Omar says, "Yeah, limited run release Tomba on the PS5 and Switch." Yep, I knew there was a re-release somewhere. PTK Skull Monkeys is very good, fun, and easy to get into. Yes, sir. Strider 2 is a must-have. Yep, I agree. So, quick thing on Strider 2. So, I'll just say this. So, if you like Strider 2, there was a game that came out, I think, last year that plays almost identical to Strider 2, and it is Slave Zero X. So if you've never heard of that game, it's Slave Zero X. It came out on the PlayStation 5 and it came out on the Nintendo Switch. I don't think it got a PS4 release, but Slave Zero X is actually a very interesting game to check out. I don't they are saying that it's related to Slave Zero, which is a game that came out on the Dreamcast back in the day. That was kind of like a Slave Zero was kind of, it felt like an arena style, like run and gun shooter, kind of like. Slave Zero was an interesting game on the Dreamcast, and it wasn't expensive at all. Like you could get Slave Zero on the Dreamcast for like $15. But look for Slave Zero X on the Switch. That game plays a lot like Strider 2. It's basically like a 2D hack and slasher. Very interesting graphics. It follows that 2.5D graphical style. That's a very dope one to check out. Slave Zero X. Mun Princess Y2K, any advice for collecting Dreamcast games? I'm planning to try out that console. I'm very fascinated by the games like Jet Set Radio. So the Dreamcast has a lot of very interesting games on it. I am a Dreamcast fan because of the shoot 'em up games as well as some of the action games that are on it. Um, I would say when it comes to Dreamcast is expensive, man. Look at the Dreamcast the same way you look at GameCube. It is an expensive console to collect for. Um, I it's just expensive. The good stuff is expensive. I don't really know where to tell you to start, but you do have some cheap games on there. So like think about games like Expendables, think about games like Ready to Rumble if you're into that. Some classic sports games are available on the Dreamcast too. So I think about games like NBA 2K, NBA 2K1, NFL 2K if you're into that. But you have some good like mid-tier games that aren't super expensive. So games like Super Magnetic Neo is a cool game to look into. You do have games like Virtual On. So if you're into like mech arena style games. But then you have like the expensive stuff, right? So like the Power Stone games, Power Stone 1 and 2, but you can get Power Stone 1 and 2. I think Power Stone 1 and 2 are going to be a part of that new Capcom collection, if I'm not mistaken. I think, if I'm wrong, somebody let me know in the chat, but I think Power Stone 1 and 2 is about to come out with that collection. But that's on the Dreamcast. Obviously, Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 are on the Dreamcast, but those have been re-released, so you don't need to, spend money on that. You do have the Sonic Adventure games, so Sonic Adventure, Adventure 2. I would say if you're gonna get the Dreamcast, there's a lot of like niche games that you can't get anywhere else that you could get on the Dreamcast. So you might want to start there. Games like Heavy Metal Geomatrix, games like Spawn Armageddon, games like geez, there's Evolution. Like if you're into RPGs, you've got the Evolution series. So Evolution, Evolution 2. I would look into like I would start off with the Dreamcast looking for games that have not been ported anywhere else yet, and just games that aren't super expensive. There's another RPG, Time something. There's an RPG on the Dreamcast. I'm drawing a blank, but there's another one. Time. It's not Time Crisis. It's Time something. It's an RPG. If you guys can think of the game I'm trying to think of, you could put it in a comment. But it's something Time. I can't remember it. And then of course on the Dreamcast you've got a ton of shoot 'em ups, right? So Giga Wing 2, my favorite, Mars Matrix. That's like probably my favorite shooter on the Dreamcast. Mars Matrix, that game does not get enough love, but that is a sick shooter. You also have Gunbird 2, which is another amazing shooter, but Gunbird 2 is also part of a compilation of shoot 'em up games that you can get either on the Switch or on the PlayStation 4. I think it's called the Sikayo Shooting Stars series. It's like Sikayo Shooting Stars Alpha and Bravo. So you can play Gunbird and Gunbird 2, I think, if you get that collection. So a lot of the really good Dreamcast games, in summary, have been ported to other systems. You just kind of have to figure out which game you want. But I would start with the exclusives on the Dreamcast. I know that was a long answer. Sorry about that. Don the Second says PS2 nostalgia hits different. It sure does. Nam Omar, Hagane needs a limited run or strictly limited. Yeah, look, Nam Omar, I've been saying that for forever, man. Like, why haven't we gotten a Hagane re-release? They were releasing all these other games. Dude, if they re-release Hagane, I probably wouldn't even care about getting it on the Super Nintendo. Like, just, we need a re-release of that game, or at least a part 2. What's going on with that? Slave Zero X is dope for the Switch. It sure is, Jay. Sure is. Cannon Dancer was originally going to be Strider 2. Yeah, so I actually had Cannon Dancer. That I think Strictly Limited released Cannon Dancer a while back. I had that and sold it. Kind of mad I sold it. Brandon Sims, I bought a Dreamcast to collect for, saw the prices and decided to go. Yeah, Dreamcast is expensive, man. King Moso asks, what's your favorite console, Y2K? That's a good question. Probably the Sega Genesis. Probably the Sega Genesis might be my favorite console. Yeah. Project says, I went to PAX East yesterday and the retro games were priced ridiculously. Yeah, it's crazy, man. $300 for a Pokemon Emerald with a ripped label. Woof. That's kind of rough. So I recently got a copy of Pokemon Emerald the other day. I traded for it and I think it was like $215 or something. So yeah. Time Splitters. No, so it's not Time Splitters. It's all right, now you guys are gonna make me look. Hold on, I gotta get up and look to see what this game is called because it's gonna kill me if I don't look. Hang on one second. Let's go to the shelf here. It is, where are my Dreamcast games? It is Time Stalkers. That's the one. That's the one I was looking for. So Time Stalkers. That's actually a really good game to get on the Dreamcast. Skies of Arcadia is also Dynamite Cop. Yeah, now they're coming. Dynamite Cop is a good one. This is basically part 2 of, so Dynamite Cop is part 2 of Die Hard Arcade. And if you grew up in the arcades, you know Die Hard Arcade was sick. Oh, Bangai-O, that's right, that's another one. Bangai-O, for sure. That's another one that you definitely got to check out. Oh, Tech Romancer, yeah, look, Dreamcast is dope, but it is not for the faint of heart. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, let's get through the rest of these PlayStation 1 games. Man, I can't even believe I've been streaming this long. I did not intend to stream this long. Okay, so Kingsley's Adventure, another interesting action platformer for sure. Definitely one I recommend you checking out if you're into these like cartoon style platformers. Kingsley's Adventure is a good one. Next up, we have Rising Zan. So Rising Zan is actually very interesting. This is like a hack and slash shooter game on the PlayStation 1. The concept of this game is amazing. It was just sad that it was limited by the graphics of the day. Like the graphics that were available at that time just limits how awesome this game could be. But Rising Zan. I feel like Rising Zan was part one of a game that came out on the PlayStation 2, and I've got it right here. Samurai Western. So I feel like Rising here. Let me grab them both. I always say that if you've ever played Rising Zan, so play Rising Zan and then go check out Samurai Western. Samurai Western to me feels like the spiritual successor to Rising Zan. I might be wrong. Somebody could let me know down in the comments, but they're both these samurai western shoot 'em up style games. Very interesting. Don't hear this game talked about enough, but Age Tech has some classics on the PS1. Believe that. So that's a good one there. Go ahead and move that to the side. Next up, one of my faves. So Jackie Chan Stunt Master. This is an amazing beat 'em up on the PlayStation 1. I highly recommend you check this game out. Jackie Chan himself did all the voice acting for this game, which adds a very awesome level of nuance to this game. Really love Jackie Chan Stunt Master. The one thing is that kills me with this game is the platforming. Jumping from platform to platform drives me crazy. That's the one drawback of this game. But I think outside of that, this is a very fun, very interesting beat 'em up game, and the graphics aren't too bad. A little dingy, but the graphics are not bad on this one at all. So if I had to recommend a game, Jackie Chan Stunt Master is one that I definitely recommend to the channel. You guys go ahead and check this one out. Very interesting game. Next up, so this game is interesting in concept, but execution is rough, and that is Jersey Devil. So there are a number of like games that came out on the PlayStation that I don't think we ever saw again, but were like cool in their own right, and Jersey Devil's one of them. Jersey Devil is very cool, but the graphics, the graphics are bad in this game. I like the whole. It's basically an action platforming adventure game, but I really don't like the graphics. So I really don't have a ton to say about it. Every time I try to play this game, the graphics just crush me. It just crushes me. But very interesting concept nonetheless. Very interesting concept. Okay, we're getting down to it. We're almost done here. So, Adventures of Lomax. So this one is one that's kind of gone under the radar. Not a lot of people talk about this game, but this is a very beautiful hand-drawn sprite-based game. And I have a lot of very cool looking like 2D games on the PlayStation 1, and this is one of them. The controls in this game are a little bit different. You kind of have to do this like spinning attack to like kind of get through the levels, but I got this game just because it looks very pretty. I'm surprised this game has not gotten a re-release on the Switch yet, but this is a very interesting one. Definitely recommend you check it out if you like those side-scrolling games. A PlayStation 1 classic, Ape Escape. Many of you know this game. To me, like when I play this game, I get like Mario 64 vibes. To me, I get like some serious Mario 64 vibes with this game. Graphically, I would say that Ape Escape has some of the most impressive graphics, in my opinion, on the PlayStation 1, and the gameplay is right up there as well. If you've never had a chance to play this game, I say give it a shot. Ape Escape is a classic. And then we have another classic in the collection as well, Intelligent Qube. This game is kind of scary, man. Like if you've never played this game, the pressure to like get the cubes lined up right is like, there's a lot of pressure on this one, because if you don't do it like in a certain amount of time, you go falling to your death. I remember Intelligent Qube. I just remember the commercials for Intelligent Qube and thinking, man, that game looks tough. Intelligent Qube is a very difficult game. It's a fun game, but it's tough. If you like puzzle games, like if you're into games like Tetris or like Bubble Bobble or like anything like puzzle solving games, you'll really like Intelligent Qube, but this one is a tough one for sure. All right, here goes another game that we've got here. Kind of like Jersey Devil, right? Punky Skunk. Punky Skunk is another one of those PlayStation 1 games that you just like didn't really see or hear much about this game ever again. Like you had franchises that were born on the PS1 and died on the PS1. They never continued. Punky Skunk is cool though. This is basically a 2D sprite-based game. So I really like the graphics on this one. This is like a 2D side-scrolling game. Very interesting. Another one of those games that I don't really hear talked about a ton, but very interesting. And this is another one that I could see getting a port somewhere down the line. Very interesting IP that we just never really saw or heard about again. All right, next up we have So now I think we're gonna get into some interesting stuff here. These last few games look pretty interesting, so we'll get into them. So here we have this game. So this is another one of those games that I have in my collection rather, One Piece Mansion on the PlayStation 1. So this is basically like a simulator style game, and you have a lot of these types of games that are basically like store simulator. Like I know Heck and Steve, he usually streams like a card store simulation type of game where you're running a store. Well, this is that same type of game where I think you're like running like a hotel, and basically like you're running a business of some sort, and you have to like manage the finances and like pay people, and it's that type of simulation game, but it has like some really cool like cartoon effects to it. And it's a Capcom game. My copy is still sealed. I never actually got a chance to play this game, but I picked this one up because I thought it was very interesting looking and I wanted to check this one out. I'll probably open this one day and play it, just never got around to it, but this is one of the sealed PlayStation 1 games in my collection. Very cool. Here goes another sealed PlayStation 1 game. I also have another sealed one. This is Gekio Shooting King. Now, this has a longer and much more difficult to pronounce name on the Sega Saturn. I think it's like, I can't remember how to pronounce the name, but this was also released on the Sega Saturn, and I think it plays a little bit better on the Sega Saturn. Um, Very cool game though. This is a shooter. I've played the Sega Saturn version, but it's just basically a top-down shoot 'em up on the PlayStation 1, one that I am glad to have. Next one up, you can see this one, and that is Silhouette Mirage. So this is a very interesting working designs game. This is kind of side-scrolling platforming game where like you have to attack enemies, but you have to kind of, so you have a red side and a blue side, and it kind of plays a little bit like Ikaruga in the sense that certain enemies can only be harmed by like your red attacks, and then certain enemies can only be harmed by your blue attacks, and you kind of have to swap back and forth depending on who you're attacking. Very, very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff on this one. One that I recommend you check out, Silhouette Mirage on the PlayStation 1. And we've only got about 10 more games left here for me to go through. And then we should be done here. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pause real quick and just go back and take a look at some of these comments, because I know it looks like a few comments came in. So let's see what we got. So yep, so let's go back. Slave Zero X is dope. I think I said that one. What's your favorite console? I think I answered that. So Nama Mars says Mars Matrix is fire. It sure is. Anton the Go-Go, what's going on? King Moso, did you ever play the Master System? Very underrated console. I never did. I never played the Master System. It's a console that I thought about getting. I just never really got into it. Brandon Sims, when I was a kid, our local Pizza Hut had the good arcade games. Yeah, man, pizza shops, they always had Street Fighter 2 around. Ooh, excuse me. They always had Street Fighter 2 near me. I played so much Die Hard Arcade. Yeah, I played Die Hard Arcade a lot as well. Let's see, Kevin Ramirez. What's going on, Kev? Let's see. Mine is very beautiful. I think that you were probably talking about when I was talking about Jackie Chan, that Jackie Chan game. One Prince says, "Oh, Japanese region games. I wonder if you're gonna make a vid showing your collection. There's a lot of weird PS1 games." So the bulk of my Japanese games are on the Sega Saturn. I probably will do a live one day just showcasing all of my import Saturn games. I actually bought an import console just to be able to play my import Saturn collection without any issues, because you can get an action replay, which is basically a cart. Let me just show you guys real quick. So if you have like a North American Sega Saturn, you can get one of these carts here. They're called an action replay. And this cart is supposed to allow you to be able to play import Saturn games. But even with this, certain Saturn games will not run on a North American console. It just won't work. An example would be like Marvel Superheroes. That won't work. Or like Dungeons and Dragons. That's not going to work. Even if you use this cart, they will only run on an import Saturn. Maybe I was just wrong. Maybe I didn't hook it up right. But I had to have an import Saturn for some of the games that I wanted to play. Let's see. Jesus is Lord. Romans, because you confess. Appreciate the Sunday morning sermon. Thank you. Andre 1 2 3 4. I like Soul Saber. I have not played that one. Brooklyn Game Collector. I remember Jackie Chan for the TurboGrafx 16. That's a good fun game. It sure is. Brooklyn Game Collector. I need to try the Jackie Chan for PlayStation. Never played it. Did not know PlayStation 1 had one. Yeah, man, check it out. It's definitely a fun game. The voice acting is the best part. Just listening to Jackie Chan is the best part. Um, let's see. Love your game collection. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. All right. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here real soon. I've got about 5 more games to go through, so let's kind of get through them. So next up we have Wu-Tang Shaolin Style. So if you're a fan of Def Jam Fight for New York, you are going to be a fan of this game. This is basically another one of those like Wu-Tang style fighting games. It doesn't have the whole Def Jam lineup, but you will get to fight either as any one of the Wu-Tang clan members. So RZA, Method Man, Raekwon, You God, any one of those guys, you will be able to play as them. And I would have to think that this was probably the template for a lot of the Def Jam fighting games that we saw in the 6th generation, including Def Jam Vendetta, Def Jam Fight for New York, and then you have the 7th gen games like Def Jam Icon. So a lot of those games that came out, I think, spawned from what we saw in the Wu-Tang Shaolin style. So cool stuff there. Then you have Chocobo's Dungeon 2. This is an RPG that I recently picked up in a trade. Haven't played a ton of it yet. It's an interesting dungeon crawler game. I'm not a huge dungeon crawler guy, but definitely a cool game to check out. One that I recently picked up. And then next up we have, now we're getting into some of the cooler stuff. What do I have? I think the last few games that I have are shooters. So here we have this one. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the PlayStation. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is one that I picked up not too long ago. Actually, I think I picked this up in the beginning of the year as part of a big trade. Like I got a bunch of games in one shot. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the PlayStation 1 and on the Dreamcast. I don't know why the PlayStation 1 version is so expensive. I really don't. I don't know what it's going for now. I think at the time it was like 250 or something. I know during the pandemic this game was stupid expensive, but it is a very good fighting game. A very, very good fighting game from Capcom. One that I think it definitely merits a playthrough or warrants a playthrough. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, one that I would definitely check out. Then on the PlayStation 1, we have In the Hunt. For all my shoot 'em up lovers out there, you know In the Hunt is definitely a sick shooter. Basically, it's an underwater shooter. I like this one because you can drop bombs, but you can also launch rockets. So you can kind of fire in a number of directions, either forward, up, down, backward. So In the Hunt is definitely a very cool shoot 'em up that I recommend you check out. Then this is in my top 5 shoot 'em ups of all time, R-Type Delta. R-Type Delta is definitely a shoot 'em up that you have to experience. This never got a re-release. I'm not sure why. I'm not even sure why they haven't come out with like an R-Type Delta 2. They came out with R-Type Final on the PlayStation 2, which was fun. And then they came out with R-Type Final 2 on the Switch and the PlayStation 4, but they never did a R-Type Delta sequel, which a lot of people consider R-Type Delta to be the best installment in the R-Type series. So one that I definitely recommend. Again, another Age Tech gem. So Age Tech is known for those gems. Then we have Ray Storm. So Ray Storm. So a lot of people have asked me what music I use on the outro of some of my videos, my edited videos. The outro music that I use is from Ray Storm. It's actually from level 2 in Ray Storm, and I'm a huge fan of the Ray Storm games, Ray Storm and Ray Crisis. So these are 2 awesome shoot 'em ups that are in my collection. I really enjoy the Ray Storm series. And you don't have to spend $200+ to get both of these games. There is a Ray Storm collection that came out for the Switch and the PlayStation 4 that includes Ray Storm and Ray Crisis. It's probably like 35 to 40 bucks. So I would check those out. But of course, I really like these because they have all that beautiful working designs, cover art, that whole holographic embossed look to them. So these are 2 of my favorite shoot 'em ups on the PlayStation 1. Definitely recommend you guys checking this one out, or these 2 out. And finally, we're down to the last game, and this might be one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games. of all time, and that is Silent Bomber. I cannot talk about this game enough. This is an extremely dope game. First of all, I love the openness of this game. It has kind of like an open feel to it. Obviously, you play as your main weapon is a bomb, but you get different power ups throughout the game that allows you to modify your bombs. You can do time bombs. You can do motion sensor bombs. The boss battles in this game are sick. The level design in this game is sick. The levels are very broad and open, and it just has a very open feel, especially for a PlayStation 1 game. That's one of the things that I'm really intrigued about the most with this game. Very dope game, one that I recommend you check out on the PlayStation 1. Silent Bomber is not a cheap game at all. It's definitely not cheap. It was expensive before, like I'm gonna say pre-pandemic. This was maybe like a $100, maybe $120 game. These days I'm seeing Silent Bomber go for like 300 bucks. Don't know why it's so doggone expensive. I mean, I do know why. It's a very good game. It's not a cheap game by any stretch of the imagination. But it's, it's pretty darn expensive. So that's one that I might recommend you emulate if you can emulate it. You may not want to go out and spend that much money on it. And that does it, guys. That does it for the PlayStation 1 collection. Just putting up some of my favorites on the PlayStation 1 right here for you guys to see. These are some of my faves. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the shoot 'em ups. I'm a huge fan of some of the action games. Strider, of course, is definitely in that bunch. Got some really good stuff here. Let me go back and catch up on some of the comments here. Chow Fan 106 says, "What's up, Y2K? What's up, man? How you doing?" Nam Omar says, "Get the Action Replay 4M Plus for Saturn. You'll be able to play all your import." I have to look into that one. I didn't. I have to look and see if I can find that one for sure. I'll see if I can get my hands on it. Jojo, yep, Jojo. Cygnus99 says the artist will be summoned. um, I didn't know Jotaro was that old. Let's see. I like the older Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, Kevin says he likes older Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, older Crash Bandicoot is pretty dope. Number Mars says R-Type Delta is my goat of shoot 'em ups. Yeah, man, it's up there, man. R-Type Delta is a classic. Not a lot of people really know, man. They don't know. It's pretty sick. Is JoJo Bizarre Adventure a straight fighting game or fighting RPG? I was not sure about that game. No, that's just like a straight up fighter. It's like an arcade fighting game. Prince, since you brought up JoJo, have you watched any animes? I also remembered you having the Attack on Titan game for PS4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I do have the Attack on Titan games. I have Attack on Titan 2 Final Battle for actually the Switch. I sold my Attack on Titan games that I had on the PlayStation 4, and I just kept Attack on Titan 2 on the Switch. I don't spend a lot of time watching a ton of anime outside of like the obvious ones like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. For a while, I was getting into One Punch Man. I was definitely getting into that, but I don't do a lot of the anime. I should, I definitely should check them out. One of the old school animes that I did watch was Fist of the North Star, so I did watch that like before, but that's pretty much it. Not a huge anime person. Brooklyn Game Collector Straight Up Fighting, yeah. Last time I checked, Play Asia had it for around 30. Yep. Yep. Didn't you have a copy of Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation 1? I did have a copy of Resident Evil 2. It was loose disc, and I sold that copy of Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation 1. I just wasn't going to play it at that time, and I actually used it as a part of a trade. Yeah, I didn't really want to keep it in the collection. Just, it was a part of my weeding out process. But yeah, that does it for the PlayStation 1 collection, guys. I'll keep the live open for just a little bit longer just to see any Q&A, any questions, anything that you guys have before I go ahead and wrap up here. But this was cool. I definitely didn't anticipate us being in the live for this long. But it was about 65 games, and I tried to give a little bit of commentary on each game. Tried to move through it pretty quickly, but yeah, I may do this for my PlayStation 2 collection. I almost did this for my Sega Genesis collection as well. I may do these. I may start a series where I just go through my collections and just answer questions and things like that. But yeah, a lot of cool games to look out for this spring/summer. A lot of really cool stuff coming out for sure. when it comes to those 2D games, those 2D sprite-based games. So be on the lookout. And be on the lookout for another video that'll be coming out a little bit later on this afternoon. It's 9:30 my time, so I'm not sure where you all are watching from. I know we got some folks in from Germany. I know we got some folks in from a bunch of different parts of the country, a bunch of different parts of the world. Wherever you're tuning in from, really appreciate you stopping by on a Sunday morning. Yeah, enjoy the weekend. Hopefully the yard sales around you have some good stuff and you can get some good games, some good retro games, and hopefully I put you on to a game or two that you didn't know about. But until next time, y'all, this is the Y2K Collector. Hopefully you have a great Sunday, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.